Welcome back to GaleForceWins Season 3.
The GaleForceWins podcast is proudly sponsored by the Newfoundland and Labrador Construction Association. The NLCA provides unparalleled opportunities for its members through industry education, construction information, government advocacy, and networking events. The NLCA is building Newfoundland and Labrador. For more information, visit nlca.ca. Perchance Theatre is building anew. The Timbers have moved up the road to a permanent new home in Conception Harbour. Located in the former Immaculate Conception Convent, their home has now become the home of Perchance. GaleForceWins recorded conversations with some of the people who make Perchance an inspiration. This is one of those conversations. Thanks for joining us on Perchance to Dream, the podcast. Produced by GaleForceWins.
There is a tide in the affairs of men which, taken at the flood, leads on to fortune. And there's no doubt about that. Here we are today in conversation on the Perchance to Dream podcast. I'm Alan Dale. With me as always, my good buddy Jerry Carew, and we are GaleForceWins. And sir, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name is Bill Newton. I was born on Bell Island before Confederation.
Okay.
And I was the last of 9 children. I was born on July the 8th, and my mother said, I took you to my father who was dying. And she said, this is your son, and I'm going to name him Bill, even though you don't want any of your children named Bill, but I'm naming him Bill.
Wow.
And he died August the 8th.
Sorry.
So I didn't know my father.
Right.
So here is my mother now with 9 children, 2 died. So she had 11 children and only married 10 years.
Wow.
And we were living on Bell Island and in a very poor house with 2 bedrooms, no running water. And I tell people, you know, when they talk about being poor, I said, well, we were so poor, I said, we didn't have garbage. And that sort of, yeah, a lot of people get a kick out of that one, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, this was before Confederation. No insurances or anything, so it was a rough ride. Even though I was an infant, I didn't see the rough ride, really.
No.
Anyway, but my mother was advised that maybe she should put some of the kids in the orphanage. So 2 boys went to Mount Cashel and 3 girls went to Belvedere. Now, as I recollect then, when Joey Smallwood brought in Confederation, of course, the baby bonus was issued. Mm-hmm. So now she can afford to look after the kids. So she brought them all back, right? So that was our start on Bell Island, right? And then, of course, as the older, I had my oldest brother and sister were twin, and when they became of age, they went to work to help the family, right? So eventually then they all grew up and went their various ways, some to the mainland, some to St. John's, whatever. One went in the army. Anyway, so that was the start of my life on Bell Island. But where most of my siblings ended up in Ontario, at the age of 16, they decided that myself, my mother, and my youngest sister, there was only 3 of us left on the island, were moving to Toronto. Was it, I suppose, somewhat of a I didn't know, I had mixed feelings, right?
Yeah.
But at the time it was exciting to go to Toronto, right?
Sure.
Until I got there. And anyway, you know, so to move to Toronto, giving up everything, giving up your friends, but your friends were moving too, because Bell Island was closing down, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it was sad to see, you know.
What year would this been built?
This was 1963.
63.
So that's 60 years ago, right?
Right.
Anyway, so I moved to Toronto. I had just completed grade 9. So I was in high school. So I went to high school in Toronto for 1 year. Hated every moment of it because it was such a massive change, right? And of course, I was a Newfoundlander, so I talk funny. Right?
Yeah.
And, you know, not that I was bullied or anything, I wasn't, you know. I could take care of myself.
I was going to say, yeah.
But it was an interesting comment over here with this. I was in school one day and a teacher, listening to my speech, she said to me, she said, "Mr. Newton," she said, "I'm trying to figure out if you're French or if you're Irish." And I said, "Yeah." And she said, "By the way," she said, "when did you come to Canada?" I said, "I didn't come to Canada." I said, "Canada came to me."
What a great story. I love it.
So that's something that a lot of Newfoundlanders can claim, right?
Right.
At least for now, for at least another 20 or 30 years until
Right.
the last true Newfoundlander will, one day a headline will be in the paper, "The last true Newfoundlander dies today," or
Right.
something like that.
Yeah.
But I quit school and I went to work in the factories in Toronto. And at 17, I was in this factory making urethane products. There was about 50 people there, and it was a lot of Italians, you know, because they were coming over. I mean, Toronto has a big community of Italians. Some Newfoundlanders and East, you know, people from the East. So I was 17. At 18, I was running the operation in this plant.
Wow.
And then one day, there was a lady, no, not one day, but it's a lady working there, and she used to pick at me and say, "You're wasting your time, you know." And I said, "How so?" She said, "You need to go back to school." I said, "Yeah, I think you're right." So I packed my bags and I moved back to St. John's to go to school, finish high school at 19. And I had a brother living in St. John's, so that helped. So I had a place to stay. So what do I do? I'm a Catholic, so I go to Gonzaga because it was in my area where he was living. They wouldn't take me into grade 11. They said, "We'll take you into grade 10. You don't have grade 10. You know, because in Ontario, my grade 10 was in the commercial side, not in the university side of, so I didn't have the sciences and the maths and things like that. I said, "No, I can't do it." I said, "I'm too old. I need to go and do grade 11. So they wouldn't take me. I forget who the principal was at the time, but anyway. So I said, "Well, I'll try another school." And I went to Prince of Wales. They were about to accept me, but then they were full. They said, "Well, there's a school up the road," and I didn't know where I was going now. I was by myself, right, at 19, and they said, "It's Bishop's College up the road. Go up this road or whatever." So on the way up, I looked at a building before I got to Bishop's, and it said Booth Memorial High School. High school.
Yeah.
Key words for me. So I went in, saw the principal, told my story. "Okay," he says, "come on, you can start, do your grade 11. Yeah, in the Salvation Army School. And I was a Roman Catholic, not that it mattered, you know,
Yeah.
to me it didn't matter. I don't think it was, I guess things are changing now, right, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But this principal, his name was George Compton, and he, as I understand, his nickname was Second Chance Compton. You know,
Is that right?
Yeah. Anyway, not that he was giving me a second chance, but he was giving other people in the community second chances, right?
Yeah.
This was my first chance.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I went in, did grade 11, with a lot of difficulty because I didn't have grade 10 French. I didn't have grade 10, say, math and, you know, sort of core subjects, you know. So I had to work a little harder. But I did it. I got through it. Got my grade 11. Went to Mont to do engineering. And because of my experience in Toronto, I knew I wanted to do engineering.
Yeah.
So I went on to become a mechanical engineer. Right?
That's a big jump, man, from walking the streets to try to find a high school to becoming a mechanical engineer.
Yeah. So,
Wow.
and then of course at Memorial, our class was the last class of students that were shipped out to Nova Scotia, right, to get their engineering degree at Nova Scotia Tech, which
I
became,
didn't know that was a thing.
Tons. You went to Tons, right?
Okay.
so you went away. You couldn't get your engineering degree here. It was then that Angus Bruno came in and started the engineering program. Then, of course, then we had the Newfoundlanders, but we were the last technical, the last class of Newfoundlanders that went to Nova Scotia Tech.
Wow.
So now I'm an engineer. So just got married too, right? And my wife didn't want to leave Newfoundland. I didn't want to leave Newfoundland either.
No, you've done that already.
Yeah. So anyway, I ended up in St. John's. I worked with 2 or 3 consulting engineering firms. But then after 10 years of that, I said, I'm going on my own. I think I could do it. So I did. Went on my own, started Newton Engineering, and just slowly built it up, right? And it was a lot of fun, right? And you meet a lot of people, but one thing in business is you got to have the right personality, and you don't burn any bridges, right?
Yeah.
And that was key, And I hired the right people, because you got to have the right people around you, to build a business.
Mm-hmm.
So that was 1982. 1992, can you remember what happened in 1992?
Cod moratorium.
The cod moratorium. About 60 or 70% of my business was in the fishery.
Wow.
So now I had a staff of 16 people, and all of a sudden the workload evaporated. And I had to, then I was faced with laying off these people who were family, in a way, right?
Yeah.
It was sad, but I had to lay them off. They understood. So I went down to 3 people. Kept it going for a while, thinking of maybe give it up and go to work for someone, but I didn't. I held on. And then, of course, the economy started to come back, right? So then the oil industry was starting to really catch on, right? And the economy really picked up in the late 90s,
Yeah.
in early 2000. The place was booming, right? So things were good again, right? Anyway, will I continue with my engineering?
Please do. Don't stop.
It's fascinating.
It's fascinating. Don't stop.
So the oil industry was frightening a lot of the engineering firms around St. John's, right? They figured we were going to lose our employees to the big firms, right? So I said, well, the best thing to do is maybe get involved with the oil piece. So I approached Husky Energy, and I said, look, we're a local firm. We want to be involved. Why don't you get us involved? Help us out. Get us involved. So they said, okay. And anyway, then they said, okay, I'll give you a call next week. The next week they called, they said, we need a civil engineer to help us with the glory holes on the White Rose project. If you got someone who could help us. I said, of course I do, But it wasn't me.
No.
Yeah.
My firm was mechanical electrical, so I buddied up with a structural firm and a marine civil firm. So we had the right engineer to go and help the glory holes. But then they wanted some help with electrical. Then they wanted some help with costing, and so just. But it was more the seconding people. But that's fine. We were getting in, right?
Yeah.
But during the process, while they were still under development, or not, they were waiting to be sanctioned and to get the job White Rose done. One day I had a phone call from the management of Husky. He said, come in, I want to see you. So I went in, and they said, we need the concept design done for the top sides of the White Rose project, right? And of course, right away I was saying, you know, I swallowed. And here was a group of engineers from Maersk over in Denmark and the Husky people. But I brought one engineer with me who had some experience in the offshore. And I took a big swallow. And then they said, "No, we know you can't do it. But you can do it. Go down to Houston and get a team together to do it."
Yeah.
And I said, "Okay, I'll do it." So I went to Houston, married up with an Australian firm called Worley. And we put a package together. They accepted it, and we did the concept design for the whole White Rose project.
Wow.
Bill, they must have really wanted to do business with you. Like, you had an incredibly strong relationship, obviously, for them to trust you like
Yeah,
that.
well, yeah, obviously, because like I said, I didn't burn bridges.
No.
And you had to show that you had the confidence to do the job, right? Anyway, so here we had the Worley engineers, we had our own engineers, we had our own techs, we had an office, and we produced the concept design for the White Rose project. I mean, a massive piece of work, right?
I imagine, yeah.
Anyway, so my engineering career then just continued on that line, and we were called NSP then, you know, and it still exists, by the way, NSP Energy. And anyway, the company got involved with all kinds of projects. And because of our relationship with certain contractors, they invited us to participate in projects in Australia and Norway and North Sea.
Wow.
So it was a nice ride, right?
Not bad for from Carolina, as they say.
Yeah, was so poor we didn't have garbage.
Well, I was thinking, what would your mom say today if she had seen what you have done?
Well, yes, true, yeah, because she did see me graduate,
Yeah,
but she died early in my career, you know.
yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so that's, you know, but while I was doing all the engineering, I was also volunteering my time. I was involved with a lot of organizations, you know, like Sisters of Mercy asked me to sit on their St. Patrick's Mercy Home Board. I was elected as president of the Association of Professional Engineers and Geoscientists. You know, it's a one-year term, you know.
The Peg and L now?
Peg and L.
Yeah, yeah.
And then I was asked to sit on the hospital board. It was called the Newfoundland Cancer Treatment and Research Foundation. That was back in the mid-90s when there was 20 hospital boards across the province, right?
Yeah.
But while I was sitting on this board, the chairman resigned, and I was appointed chair of this hospital board, which was it was a very nice position to be in, you know, right? Mm-hmm. Tough, but you know, you had a group of professionals running a cancer care program that had to be second to none to everything in Canada, right? But it was a great experience, you know? And I helped the Boy Scouts build their Camp Northwest as a volunteer, you know. So basically, you know, that was sort of my engineering career. And then NSP was approached to be purchased, and I sold it. So then I started another little engineering firm.
So the car wasn't
right?
for you?
No.
No.
But then, so another small engineering firm. But again, I surrounded myself with the right people, you know, good. I wanted to get to work, but I wanted them to do it, right?
Yeah.
And that was key, you know. And in all cases, you know, if you look after your people, they look after you. And that was the case that I had. And I'm happy to say today that all three firms are still in operation.
Wow. What a journey.
Yeah.
How did you intersect with Perchance Theatre?
Well, I moved to Cupid's 10 years ago after living in St. John's there. I lived in Bilco for 40 years. And I wanted to just get away from everything and I wanted to be on the water, so I purchased land and had a house built in Cubits. Of course, when you're in Cubits, then you're going to the Perchance Theatre. I mean, I really enjoyed going to the theatre.
Yeah.
My wife and I, and we used to go to all their shows every year. And then occasionally I got to know Danielle, and they didn't have, you know, any facility there, only an outdoor facility. So,
Yeah.
so there were times when she needed like a little function, so they had it at my house. Or if some of the actors needed to go to the washroom or freshen up, they come to the house.
So you're right next to the theatre,
Well,
obviously.
not necessarily, no, about
No?
half a mile away,
Oh,
or half a kilometre.
yeah,
Right?
yeah.
And then the chair of the board then, I think it was Margot O'Connors, wasn't it? She invited me to sit on the board, which I did. But I'm also on the legacy board in Cubits as well, right? So that's more or less basically what I do now is sit on those two boards.
Yeah.
But I was really, you know, very interested in what Danielle was doing. Her heart and soul is into it. And the whole staff, their heart and soul is into this theatre. And watching her dedication and how she treats, you know, all these young actors and developing these young actors. I mean, I was really impressed, you know, right? Mm-hmm. So I sort of help her out where I can, and even financially a little bit here and there, right? Anyway, so it, you know, we had a good relationship, that's all. And then, of course, when the time came for them to leave Cubits, that was something that, you know, it was hard. I didn't want them to leave. And I tried very hard to get them set up behind the Legacy Centre.
Yeah.
But the site wasn't
Yeah.
proper, really.
Yeah.
It wasn't right. In the meantime, I was coming back and forth here, and I knew what was going on here in Conception Harbour. I knew this convent was coming up for sale, right? So Danielle said, well, we got to move. I don't know where to go. So I said, you going back to St. John's now? She said, yeah. I said, well, follow me. And I drove her in here. And she got out in the back here and looked around. She said, what's this? I said, look at the site up there. This convent is going to be for sale. Her eyes lit up, right? So I said, if you think that you could get this convent, well, I think you probably can because you have a relationship with the Sisters of Mercy. So I said, go for it. I said, you're on your own now. I said, I set the seed. I'm leaving you. You know, I'm not leaving her, but
No, we get
if
it.
you can make it happen, I'm here to help you. She made it happen.
Wow.
Right? So that was, so I'm really pleased that this is happening, right? Because I think this site will, you know, after we get the various programs and government funding that's needed, the new outdoor theatre out there, and then I see this place here, well, it's up to them what they want to do with it, but I'd like to see them make a tea room here, maybe a craft shop, but don't operate it. Give it to the locals to do, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, let's try and build the relationship here, right? And of course, I have a connection here as well, Conception Harbour.
What's that?
My grandmother came from Bacon Cove.
Oh, is that right?
So Bacon Cove and Conception Harbour and Cachusis are all one place, right?
Right.
So as sadly as it was for them to leave Cubits, I'm sort of happy that they're here too.
Wow,
Yeah.
what a story.
Yeah,
So you're the guy responsible for the place we sit.
yeah. You know, I feel good about it, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, right?
It's amazing what the vision that they have,
Yeah.
and it's not unlike what you just described there in terms of involving the community in everything that they do.
Yeah.
You know, it's it's about celebrating everybody around here and everybody rising together. So whether it's local foodies up the road who envision charcuterie boards, or the distillery down the road, or the wellness center, the next community.
I mean, just look at Fisher's Loft, right? I mean, look, you know, I mean, he built that more or less around Trinity.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, a theater, right? So this is a theater. I'm not saying, well, who knows, maybe somebody could build a Fisher's Loft in this area, right?
Right.
Plus, you know, the bed and breakfasts, and who knows, you know, I mean, and it's the close proximity to, you know, St. John's, CBS, Paradise, Mount Pearl, I mean, you know, so the numbers are close, right? So, anyway, it'd be very interesting to see how this does develop, and, you know, I'm going to be here for a while now until she gets settled.
Yeah.
You're a business person with incredible success, and there'd be many business people watching this conversation and wondering how can they help, how can they lean in. What would you tell them? What would you tell them about this place and why they should lean in?
Well, of course, everything comes around financial support, right? I mean, she does need financial support, or the theater needs financial support. Plus, you know, when people hear about what's going on here and the opportunities in this area, you know, I mean, I really feel that, you know, some business people will jump on and help out.
Are you saying local business people or potentially Newfoundland-wide business people?
Newfoundland-wide, yeah. You know, well, let's face it, you know, most of the movers and the shakers, I think, are in the St. John's area now. You know, I'll probably be shocked by saying that, but, you know, they are. And of course, we do have entrepreneurs everywhere. But I think that a lot of them will, I think they will help out.
And what's the importance to help out, in your opinion? What's the importance for business to help out community theater like this?
Yeah, well, like I said, it's good for the whole area, the community, in the sense that it will bring people together too, right? I mean, you know, the sort of drawing card, you know, to the whole area. And of course, the big thing Perchance was doing too is developing all these young actors, and the talent, the music, and one time it was all Shakespeare, but I believe that's sort of going to be divided up more so now. We're going to have more of the local scene type shows, right? Like this High Steel is coming up on this year. It's about Conception Harbor, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
About the people who built New York or Chicago or whatever, right? So that's fantastic, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm thinking that the business community will jump aboard and help out. And I will push a few of them, because I still have a few buttons to push, right?
We won't name names right now, but once they see you on this podcast, we want whoever Bill has in mind to jump at this opportunity.
Yeah. No, it's very exciting, really. Yeah.
And on that note, what are you the most excited about for the theater, like as it evolves over the next few years? What's the most exciting part?
Well, seeing the new theater, there's a concept already designed, right, which I had nothing to do with, but I've been involved with it, with the architects who are doing it. It's really exciting to see, you know, the way they look and their vision, right? I mean, I was always impressed with architects. Sometimes some people may get mad at me, but sometimes I wish I was an architect. But, you know, it's this new theater that they're going to build, I think will be a fantastic addition to this area, right? And people will come, not only from Newfoundland, but from abroad to see it as well.
There's lots of amenities around, and I was thinking the boats that could dock, come up, watch the show, and then go again, you know?
Weather permitting.
Weather permitting.
Weather permitting. I love the incorporation of the iron and the ironworks in the new theatre
Yeah.
and that connection that it
Yeah.
has to this part of the,
Yeah, well, that too, yeah.
you know.
Yeah, it's, no, it's very exciting, and, you know, to preserve this building too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, this, well, this building needs a lot of work as well, right? But it's a great opportunity now for the actors, you know, who come here, and they, like in Cubits, they had no place to go, right? Yeah, they had portable potties and old sheds to
Yeah.
sort of try to get through a show, right? You know.
Well, on that note, it's a testament to Danielle's drive to listen to her tell the story of what they had
Yeah.
and how she built it. Like, as a business person, no wonder you're impressed. I'm astounded at what Danielle has been able to make happen.
Yeah, yeah. I would say you could tell an individual whose heart and soul is into what she loves to do, and she does. She loves it. Yeah, it's. I mean, you know, again, it's having the right people do the right job, right?
Yeah.
And she's the right person to do this job.
Yeah.
And she has couple of staff members too that are dedicated, right? And that was always my philosophy too, was the people I had around me were very important people.
Surround yourself with good people, right?
Yeah.
And listen to them.
Oh yeah, definitely listen.
Bill, you've done well in business yourself. What does it mean to you at this stage of your life to be able to give back to the community like you are?
Yeah.
I can tell you from my perspective, I'm very impressed with you taking the time and the effort to do this. How does it make you feel?
Well, no, I'm very interested in this succeeding now, because, like I said, I put the seed. And when some people in Cubits maybe hear this broadcast, they might say, "You're the one who made the move," and I said, "Well, no, I didn't make the move. They were moving. It's just that this happened to be probably the best place to move, right?" Anyway, what was
Well, I just said that, you know, you're an incredible business person, and what does it mean to you to be part of something like this and the volunteer work that you're
Well,
doing?
of course, in engineering, when we get involved with a project, you know, it's you work as a team to, you know, build a project, right? So this is similar in a way, right? I'm working with a team, you know, and being on their board is, I mean, we had our first board meeting out here. Well, not our first board meeting, but we had a board meeting in this chapel there in this winter past, right? And I was so pleased, proud of it, you know, right? Yeah, no, it's, I'm really looking forward to seeing this develop, and it'll get done. It will get done.
Bill, you've had an incredible journey. I mean, from Belle Island, the baby of the family, and single mom, raising Ollie, a little trip to Toronto, then back home, find your way back in there, dig your way to get through high school, and then mechanical engineering, start a bunch of engineering companies, and be part of some of the biggest oil and gas bills that this country's ever seen.
Yeah.
What piece of advice would you leave the audience with? You've been around the block. What would that look like?
Well, again, you know, I would, my advice to anyone would be, you know, surround yourself with the right people and reward them, because in most cases they need to be rewarded, right? That's how I made it.
Well, Bill, it's an absolute pleasure to literally sit with someone who's putting their heart and soul like Danielle into this. Danielle needs the support of someone like you. And I can tell you that I'm very grateful that you're giving of your time to that incredible person, Danielle, and all her team.
Yeah.
Thanks very much, Bill. That's what success looks like right there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Glad you invited me.
Thank you for tuning in to GaleForceWins. That's GaleForceWins, WINS.com.
Perchance Theatre is building anew. The Timbers have moved up the road to a permanent new home in Conception Harbor. Located in the former Immaculate Conception Convent, their home has now become the home of Perchance. GaleForceWins recorded conversations with some of the people who make Perchance an inspiration. This is one of those conversations. Thanks for joining us on Perchance to Dream, the podcast. Produced by GaleForceWins.